national capital. This is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight,
Ijoma Oyato.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, 30 people killed in Benue State. Governor Suswam escapes attack. House of Representatives faults federal government's approach to war on terror. Northern elders insist on conduct of elections in the region, despite security challenges in the northeast, also lay claim to the nation's oil wealth. And President Jonathan meets Southwest governors, discusses issues concerning the region.
On business news tonight, the board of EcoBank removes Thierry Tanner as its chief executive, effective March the 12th.
And on sports news tonight, Super Eagles players to earn increased bonuses and allowances at the 2014 FIFA World Cup.
Well, it's yet another bloodbath, this time in Benue State, as suspected Fulani mercenaries allegedly attacked 64 villages, beheading 30 people. The attack occurred in Guma local government area of the state, killing 37. Governor Suswam had alongside journalists, Speaker of the State House of Assembly, the Benue State Commissioner of Police, Adams Audu, and his team, soldiers and other security personnel, embarked on an assessment tour of the communities that were recently invaded by herders on Daudu Bajma Road. But the governor and his team discovered that the marauders had attacked and pulled out of the community that morning after burning down houses, barns, and beheading over 30 persons whose remains lay lifeless in several houses and huts. The governor and his team were, however, surprised when the military personnel on the tour decided to pull out on the grounds that they were not detailed to travel with the team. This decision did not, however, deter the governor, who insisted on making the trip without the military personnel. And while the violence appears to continue, the House of Representatives says Nigeria has run out of excuses and must take decisive steps to stop the killing of innocent Nigerians by terrorists in the northeastern part of the country. At a special session to remember the 59 students that were killed in an attack by insurgents in Yobe State, the Speaker, Aminu Tambuwal, said the government, including the legislature, must act swiftly to ensure the protection of all citizens. The lawmakers unanimously adopted the speech as the position of the House and immediately adjourned sitting till Tuesday next week.
When innocent, harmless, and defenseless women and children became the target of these heartless, murderous bandits, when the lives of sleeping children are so callously snuffed out, it becomes clear that these agents of terror have murdered sleep and they henceforth deserve none. Whatever grievances the terrorists harbor against the government of Nigeria, Nigeria's innocent children have nothing to do with it. Nigeria's children bear no responsibility for either policy making or policy implementation in Nigeria. It is therefore an act of cowardice worthy of ringing condemnation to target the children, to strike at those who are not only innocent, but are also unable to strike back or defend themselves. In my brief statement immediately after that attack, I warned that Nigeria is running out of excuses for our failure to live up to our responsibility to protect our citizens. Today, I wish to amend the comment and declare that we have run out of excuses. We no longer have any excuse for our inability to protect our citizens, our innocent, defenseless children from gratuitous violence. By this parameter, the Nigerian government must rise to the occasion. And by government, I do not mean only the executive. We in the legislature are also part of government, and we cannot therefore merely join in the chorus of lamentations. Our duty is to act swiftly and decisively in the protection of the citizenry. It is therefore clear that we need to come up with other ideas for a solution. There are certain questions that this House must now ask. How do we ensure that the welfare of our military is effectively administered and that they have the appropriate equipment to execute their hazardous assignment? The sad events of recent weeks have once again made Nigerians ask whether monies appropriated for the welfare of security officers are properly administered. How do we strengthen the intelligence gathering capabilities of our intelligence agencies? I humbly appeal to the Nigerian people to join in this struggle for the soul of our nation and embrace as a sacred duty the mission of restoring peace and stability in Nigeria.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwal. In the meantime, leaders and elders in northern Nigeria have agreed to work together to find a solution to the major challenges facing the region and the nation as a whole. Well, this formed the basis of a document titled the Kano Declaration, born out of a two-day meeting of leaders of northern Nigeria in Kano State. The leaders of the north have agreed to ensure that the negative incidents of the past are stopped and that the quality of life of the people becomes a priority to leaders. Our correspondent Melinda Akinlami reports.
Countries are looking for alternative energies.
On Monday, they preached peace and shared their dreams for the nation.
I have a dream that Nigeria will have the political clout that will enable her to lead the rest of Africa and the blacks all over the world.
24 hours later, they gather for the grand finale of the conference. The tone was more passionate, as a lot of guest speakers talk about the issues they feel should be addressed, from security to human capital development.
We give birth to record numbers and often end up throwing the kids on the streets, leaving them to their own devices. On reaching child adulthood, frustration and lack of opportunities will down on them, making them the monsters, the problem, the victims that now give us sleepless nights.
Putting their position in black and white, a document known as the Kano Declaration is released, and the chairman of the Northern Leaders Conference, Mr. Paul Nungu, reads out the communique.
The North must work with other Nigerians to seek more legitimate avenues for discussing the future, the nature of the Nigerian nation. The 2015 elections must be conducted in a peaceful atmosphere throughout the North. Further attempts to deprive the North of its rights to benefit fully in the democratic process will be lawfully and firmly resisted.
Would those who support the adoption say aye? Aye. Would those who support the adoption say aye again? Aye.
The voice of the Northerners, loud and clear, makes it obvious that from the north to the south, the people want the same thing: peace, better living conditions for the people, and good governance. Melinda Akinlami, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with the Northern Leaders Conference, one of the lead speakers, Alhaji Usman Bugaje, raised the controversial issue of ownership of the nation's crude oil found majorly in the Niger Delta. Now, according to him, it's wrong for any state to claim that it's oil producing, because 72% of the total land mass in the country belongs to the North. And by that, the United Nations law, only the North has the right to claim ownership.
There is no oil-producing state. The only oil-producing state is the Nigerian state itself. Because the investment came from the Nigerian state. The territory belongs to the Nigerian state, and whatever mileage you get in the sea, according to the United Nations law of the sea, is a measure of the landmass that you have. That is what gives you the mileage into the sea. If you have a small landmass, you get a small cut of the sea. And the landmass of this country, we know, that gives us that long 200 miles or nautical miles or more into the ocean, is because of that 72% of the landmass of this country, which is the north. So what they claim is the offshore oil is actually the oil of the north. If anybody should own it, it's the north. So we should stop using these terms that have no sense at all. There are no oil producing states. It is only the Nigerian state that produces oil.
Well, let's take a look at some politics now. More calls are coming for good governance and fairness in elections as we approach the 2015 polls. Today, debates over the election timetable came to the fore at the public policy lecture organized by the Alumni Association of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, KURU. But the INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega, strongly believes that the Nigerian electoral process is on course. Our political correspondent, Sheung Okimbaloye, reports.
Execution of responsibilities in terms of
It is a public policy lecture put together by the Alumni Association of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, KURU. The focus of the discussion is building credible electoral process for democratic sustainability. One of the speakers of the day is the INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega. He believes the nation's electoral process has improved, and he gives a vivid indicator.
2003, there were 507 electoral petitions, as he mentioned. 2007, there were 1,475 electoral petitions. How many were there in 2011? 600 electoral petitions. It has come down substantially. Well, what explains it? Some will say perhaps it's an evidence that things are improving. And the challenge is for us to ensure that when we come to 2015, then things become even better. You give less grounds for people to go to court. You give them better transparency to say, okay, I have lost fair and square, and the other person has won fair and square.
His speech gets a complimentary cheer from the audience. Other speakers give their thoughts on how the nation's democracy can be improved.
I therefore think we all, as Nigerians and players in the democratic enterprise and the Nigerian project, need a sort of moral rebirth to make our electoral process credible.
The event over, I sought to know exactly what Professor Sage's thoughts are on the 2015 election timetable released by INEC, as the speech didn't exactly agree with the Commission's stand on the schedule of the polls.
The presidential election must always come last. It must never come first. Once it comes first, you distort the whole elections. The result will not be related to the votes of the people. It will not be related to what the people would have done in terms of casting their votes if that order had not been followed. In other words, it is a form of political manipulation of election outcome.
The nation's democracy can be said to still be emerging, but the 2015 elections will determine a lot regarding the nation's political destiny. Sheung Okimbaloye, reporting for Channels Television News.